On today's episode of Pop History Podcast, an iconic actor gets a start in drag, a legendary song parodist is inspired for the first time, and journalist Dan Rather hails a cab in Chicago. Let's kick it!
You're listening to Pop History Podcast, a show which opens a chronological time capsule of our past. If you're a child of the 80s, a pop culture historian, or just a fan of nostalgia, keep tuning in for your weekly lesson of pop history. Now here's your host, Jay Jackson.
Hello listeners, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Pop History Podcast, where we look at everything that was rad and bad in November of 1980, all while we count down the top 10 Billboard hits of the week of November 15th, 1980. First off, I'd like to apologize for the delay in the release of this episode. With a perfect storm of the holidays, a nasty chest cold, and that new Star Wars film, I just couldn't seem to scrape the time to get this one out. So, sorry guys. Happy New Year to all you out there. In case you're curious what I thought of the Star Wars film, I liked it. Give it an 8 out of 10. This isn't one of those million Star Wars podcasts. This is pop history. So, let's get to the music. Number 10. Paul McCartney hit the top of the charts earlier this year, and now it's fellow Beatle John Lennon's turn to crack the top 10. With his first single from the album Double Fantasy, here is John Lennon kicking off the countdown with Just Like Starting Over. That was John Lennon with Just Like Starting Over from the album that the former Beatle composed with his wife Yoko Ono, titled Double Fantasy. Initial sales of the album were sluggish, with the album peaking at number 14 before slipping to number 46 by the end of November in the UK. And stateside, the album only reached number 11 in the first few weeks of the release. Spoiler alert, something tragic will happen next month that will change the public's reception of the album.
Give me a break! A plumber's wife using Crystal Drano?
Liquid Plumber's more convenient, but this hair clog's tough.
Liquid Plumber works best on tough hair clogs. Watch Crystal Drano versus Liquid Plumber on identical clogs.
You use Crystal twice.
Liquid Plumber only once.
Liquid Plumber's penetrating.
Yep, and Liquid Plumber worked better. No mess either.
On real tough hair clogs.
Use Liquid Plumber. Just pour it in, and it works.
Better.
Let's take a look at the top news stories of the month. In the United States presidential election, California Governor Ronald Reagan defeats presidential incumbent Jimmy Carter, as well as independent candidate John Anderson in a landslide. Reagan won 489 of a possible 538 electoral votes. The Iran hostage crisis, as well as a worsening economy, were cited as reasons for Carter's one-sided defeat. An unusual incident occurred in Chicago when journalist Dan Rather landed at O'Hare International Airport and got into a cab. He asked the driver to bring him to the home of author Studs Terkel, where Rather was planning to meet his producer and crew for an interview. The cabbie, however, drove Rather about 6 miles out of the way and refused to allow him to get out of the vehicle. During the ride, Rather frantically waved at other cars to try to get their help, and one driver, a jail guard, was on her way to work when she saw Rather and found his behavior rather odd.
"I saw this passenger in the back of the taxi, and he seemed to be excited about something," she said later. "He seemed to be waving his arms and had rolled down the 2 backseat windows and was screaming for help."
The police were called and Rather was rescued. The driver was charged with disorderly conduct, and he never gave a real explanation for his behavior. Despite being an advocate for the war on drugs, New York City Mayor Ed Koch admits in a radio interview that he once tried smoking marijuana. And like most other politicians who admitted to such a thing, he claimed he didn't like it. After being launched in 1977, the space probe Voyager 1 completes a flyby of the planet Saturn and sends back the first photos of the ringed planet. Voyager 1 came within 77,000 miles of the planet and was able to supply a plethora of new information about Saturn and many of its now known 62 moons. After causing controversy earlier this year for what many thought were underage nude scenes in the film The Blue Lagoon, actress and model Brooke Shields is the subject of more controversy after a Calvin Klein commercial is aired in which the 15-year-old says, "Do you know what comes between me and my Calvins? Nothing." The ad would become banned by CBS, and her line would reach legendary status. In a later interview, Shields, who had played a prostitute in the film Pretty Baby at the age of 12, told the New York Post that compared to what she has done before, this was like being in winter gear.
You want to know what comes between me and my Calvins? Nothing.
Calvin Klein jeans.
In Las Vegas, Nevada, a fire kills 85 people at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. And in a worse disaster, 4,800 people die in a series of earthquakes across southern Italy. Number 9! Our next artist was born in the UK in 1948 and had significant success in the early 1970s before his big breakout in 1977. His big singles, You Make Me Feel Like Dancin' and When I Need You, led to a successful U.S. tour where he was performing in Memphis when a knee injury landed him in the hospital. While there, he met a security guard who worked for Elvis Presley and arranged for the singers to meet a few days later. But unfortunately, Elvis died before they had a chance to meet, and Leo Sayer never got his chance to meet the king. Here with his version of the classic song performed by such acts as the Crickets, Bobby Vee, and the Beatles, here is Leo Sayer with More Than I Can Say. That's Leo Sayer with his final U.S. Top 10 hit with More Than I Can Say. Sayer is currently enjoying retirement after becoming an Australian citizen in 2009. What happened in the music news this month? Well, the Eagles' Don Henley is arrested when cocaine, quaaludes, and marijuana are found in his hotel room, along with a 16-year-old prostitute who was suffering from drug-related seizures. Henley was charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He pleaded no contest and was fined $2,500 and put on 2 years probation. Adrian Smith makes his debut as the new guitarist of the UK metal band Iron Maiden. New albums this month include the UK rock band Whitesnake releases Live in the Heart of the City. Neil Young releases his 10th studio album, Hawks and Doves. Swedish pop group ABBA returns with their 7th album, Super Trooper. From the concert film of the same name, Bette Midler releases Divine Madness. Another soundtrack album featuring music by a star is The Jazz Singer by Neil Diamond. And after the band's onstage breakup this past summer, the Eagles owe their record company one more album. So in fulfilling their obligation, the live album Eagles Live is released. Clever title. After signing with the newly formed Geffen Records, John Lennon and Yoko Ono released the album Double Fantasy, which we talked about a couple minutes ago. Barry Manilow releases the album Barry. Rod Stewart is back with his 10th studio album, Foolish Behavior. And from a band named after a sexual toy mentioned in the William Burroughs novel The Naked Lunch, jazz rockers Steely Dan released their 7th studio album titled Gotcho. Rockers REO Speedwagon return with their 9th album, High Infidelity. And although this title track is from a film, this is not a soundtrack album. Dolly Parton releases her 23rd studio album, 9 to 5, and Odd Jobs. And it was musically cited as a radical departure for the band. Blondie releases their 5th album, Auto American. In time for the upcoming holiday season, Elvis Costello releases the compilation album Taking Liberties. Slade is back with the greatest hits album, Slade Smashes. And the progressive rock band Yes releases the live album, Yes Shows. And featuring what would be their signature song as the title track, UK rock band Motorhead releases their 4th album titled Ace of Spades. Let's heavy things up a little bit with some Motorhead. Here is Ace of Spades. Number 8. It's not just a catchy name. June, Bonnie, and Anita Pointer started singing gospel songs in their West Oakland home as children. The sisters were told by their Reverend Father that rock and roll and the blues were the devil's music, and they were forced to sing some of their favorite pop songs in secret. Well, Dad probably approved when their first self-titled album received strong reviews upon its release in 1973. Here are the Pointer Sisters with their latest single from their new album, Special Things. Here is He's So Shy. That's the Pointer Sisters breaking into the 1980s with He's So Shy. The sisters would also create their first music video for this song, and they would also perform this song on a February 1981 episode of The Love Boat. BoobTube news in November of 1980 includes Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters make their debut on NBC with special guest Dolly Parton. The show was a big hit with over 40 million viewers. Suzanne Somers makes her final full appearance in an episode of Three's Company. Her remaining 7 appearances would be cameos in the episode's closing tag, in which Chrissy, her character, would call from her parents' home in Fresno to speak with Jack or Janet. They would sometimes fill in Chrissy on what happened in the episode. Suzanne Somers was written off the show after a contract dispute where the actress believed she deserved top star status on the show and a paycheck to match. After 8 long months of speculation, 83 million fans of the CBS show Dallas tuned in to find out the answer to who shot JR. Do you know? Well, the person who pulled the trigger was revealed to be Kristen Shepard, JR's scheming sister-in-law and mistress. She shot him in a fit of anger. JR did not press charges, and Kristen was claimed, because Kristen claimed she was pregnant with his child as a result of the affair. CBS spent 3 nights the week before the season premiere airing reruns of the show to help boost the interest, which didn't really need. And those 3 shows also charted in the top 10 for the week. The huge success of the stunt helped popularize the television practice of ending a season on a cliffhanger. And the "Who Shot JR" catchphrase has been spoofed countless times ever since, including a memorable episode of The Simpsons. Eddie Murphy makes his first Saturday Night Live appearance, appearing in a non-speaking role in the sketch In Search of the Negro Republican.
Number 7.
From his recent album Hotter Than July, Stevie Wonder is back on the charts. Here is Master Blaster Jammin', an ode to reggae legend Bob Marley.
They couldn't touch us even if they tried. From the park I hear rhythm. Marley's heart's on the bus. Tonight there will be a party on the corner at the end of the block. Didn't know you would be jamming until the break of dawn. See nobody ever told you that you would be jamming until the break of dawn. Be jamming and jamming and jamming and they want us to join the fighting, but our answer today is to let all our worries, like a breeze through our fingers, slip away. Peace has come to Zimbabwe. First world's right on the one. Now's the time for celebration, 'cause we all need just begun. Didn't know you would be jamming until the break of dawn. See nobody ever told you that you would be jamming until the break of dawn. See nobody ever told you that you would be jamming until the break of dawn. I know nobody told you that you would be jamming until the break of dawn. But we're jamming.
That's Stevie Wonder with Master Blaster Jammin'. The single would peak at number 5 later this month on the pop charts and sit at number 1 on the Billboard R&B charts for 7 straight weeks. The song was covered in 2000 by the UK garage duo DJ Luck and MC Neat, and it reached number 5 on the UK singles chart. Let's take a look at the Nielsen TV ratings of November 15th. At number 10 is The Jeffersons. Number 9 was the NBC Tuesday Night Movie, where they aired as Smokey and the Bandit. Great movie. Number 8, Monday Night Football, where the Patriots took on Houston Oilers, I believe that was. Number 7 is Alice. Number 6, Happy Days. Number 5, ABC Sunday Night Movie. John Travolta stars in A Saturday Night Fever. Number 4, 60 Minutes. Number 3, The Love Boat. Number 2, Dukes of Hazzard. And at number 1 with a rerun, this is before their big season premiere, is, you guessed it, Dallas.
Smile on your face is there because you know that your mouth tastes great. And it's nice when the teeth are getting strong. Put the clean in your mouth with Colgate.
Colgate's a brisk, clean taste. And with regular brushing, Colgate's MFP fluoride penetrates the surface of tooth enamel. Not this fast, but it gets in and fights cavities.
There's a twinkle in your eye when there's fluoride for the teeth. Put the clean in your mouth with Colgate.
Number 6. This next artist rose to stardom as Dorothy on the original Broadway run of the musical The Wiz from 1975 to 1977. She would see some success in the late 70s with disco hits Put Your Body in It and What You Gonna Do With My Lovin'. But it was here in November 1980 when Stephanie Mills found her biggest success with Never Knew Love Like This Before. That was Stephanie Mills with Never Knew Love Like This Before, a song which won Mills the Best R&B Song and Best Female R&B Vocal Performance at the 1981 Grammy Awards, where she beat out big stars Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, and Roberta Flack. Now it's time for our TV theme trivia. Can you place which television show opened up with this theme song every week?
With my chocolatey good cereal, Count Chocula.
Brighten up, Choc. Kids love my delicious strawberry-flavored Frankenberry.
I love Count Chocula's chocolatey flavor and real marshmallows.
See?
I like Frankenberry's strawberry flavor and real marshmallows.
Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
You can enjoy a good, nutritious breakfast with Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
Hey everybody, Jay Jackson here, taking you away for a moment. Talk about something in the present day. You know, if you're listening to Pop History Podcast, I'd appreciate if you liked our Facebook page, found us on Instagram, and, gave us a few likes. Just drop us an email at pophistorypodcast@yahoo.com with any questions or anything you might have for us. That about does it. You can, if you want to, we're looking for one more contestant to be on our year-end game show we're doing, in a few weeks. If you live in the Kenosha area and like to come on over, we'll have some chili. We'll do a game show. We have 2 contestants already. Need one more. Drop us a line. pophistorypodcast@yahoo.com. That's it. Now, back to the show. Hey.
Introducing an electronic game for kids. Funtronics Red Light, Green Light from Mattel. 9-volt battery not included.
It's fun!
red light, green light. You can race your friend to the top. Green means go, but red means stop.
I won!
Fast or slow, you pick the speed you want. Red light, green light. Funtronic's Red Light, Green Light, an electronic game for kids. New from Mattel Games.
Could you place that theme song with the show? This is a show that debuted as a TV movie in December of 1971, and it was so popular that CBS ordered a season be made the following year. 8 years later, the Waltons were still going strong every Thursday night. The show was set during the Great Depression in a fictional town in Virginia, and was originally based on the Earl Hammer book, Spencer's Mountain. The show told the story of John Walton Jr., his 6 siblings, his parents, and his grandparents. In the signature scene that closed almost every episode, the family is enveloped in darkness, save for a few lights in the upstairs bedrooms. Through voiceovers, 2 or more characters make some brief comments related to the episode's events, and then bid each other goodnight, after which the lights go out. After the Waltons ended in 1981, 6 feature-length TV movies were made, telling the story of the future of the family set from 1947 to 1969, with the last one airing in 1977. Number 5. At number 5 this week is the second single from Diana Ross's recent solo album, Diana. Written and produced by Chick members Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers, here is I'm Coming Out. That's Diana Ross with I'm Coming Out, a song which would later become regarded as an anthem for the gay and lesbian community, as the phrase coming out came to describe one's self-disclosure of their sexual orientation. The song wouldn't be as successful as their first single, Upside Down, from this album. That hit number 1. I'm Coming Out would peak at number 5 this week, but it would also be well remembered from 1997 when the notorious B.I.G. sampled the song for his song called More Money, More Problems. Let's hear a little bit of that. Doesn't sound too different. Yeah, pretty much still the same.
Who's hot, who not?
There it is.
Who rock, who sell out in the stores? You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who jewels drop box, who mostly Gucci down to the blue drop.
That's Mace. Remember Mace?
Mace, you know ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on the blimp. Guarantee me yourself for the love of love.
Alright, that's about enough of that. Debuting this month at the local movie theater are The Boogeyman, a supernatural horror film starring Susanna Love and John Carradine. Although the film received negative reviews, the box office take was enough to warrant Boogeyman 2 in 1983 and Return of the Boogeyman in 1994. Shogun Assassin, a film which was compiled and edited from 2 lone wolf and cub films from the early 1970s, is distributed by Roger Corman's New World Pictures for the Grindhouse Theater Circuit. This is one of those films that had the warning on it that was so violent, which you'd think would help box office, but not for this one. The film, based on the life of rock promoter and manager Bob Marcucci, titled The Idolmaker, hits the theaters. The Apple, also known as Star Rock, was a musical comedy starring Catherine Mary Stewart as a young singer in the futuristic 1994, who is signed to an evil record label. The film was panned by critics and audiences and occasionally pops up on some worst films of all time lists. Released the previous year in Italy, The Visitor makes its U.S. debut. The sci-fi horror film stars John Huston, Shelley Winters, and Sam Peckinpah. Filmmaker Martin Scorsese teams up with actor Robert De Niro once again for the third time in the film Raging Bull. De Niro read the autobiography of boxer Jake LaMotta while he was filming The Godfather Part 2 and brought the story to Scorsese. The director was not interested in making the film. He said he had zero interest in a sports movie. But after he nearly died of a drug overdose, Scorsese felt that the story of the boxer can be an allegory for whatever one does in life and decided to create the film. Scorsese chose to make the film in black and white to try and distinguish the film from the Rocky franchise, and he thought that the black and white would make the film timeless. And he brought back former failed actor Joe Pesci, who was working in an Italian restaurant in New Jersey at the time, to play the supporting role of Joey LaMotta. The film had a violent and angry tone to it, and combined with the lack of a proper advertising campaign, the film never had really big box office success. But as we all know, box office never equals critical success, and the film, particularly Scorsese's direction and De Niro's acting, were praised by critics. The film was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor, with the latter going to Robert De Niro as the winner for the Best Actor Oscar. And were you one of the few that went and caught this film in the theaters in 1980?
It has been called the most controversial motion picture of its time. It is the most talked about and written about film of the decade. Now, from the director of The Deer Hunter, United Artists presents Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate. The story of Jim Averill. He was born into the world of the rich and powerful, but his heart and dreams were with the people. Heaven's Gate. The story of a man's love for a woman, for a people, for a land, for a spirit that would never die. Chris Christopherson in Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate.
Another film that was heavily talked about but not well received at the box office is the epic western Heaven's Gate. The film seemed to be doomed from the start, with major setbacks in the production, including going over budget, allegations of animal abuse, and the rumor of director Michael Giacchino's overbearing style, earning him the nickname of the Ayatollah. The film only earned $3.5 million at the box office from an estimated $44 million budget, eventually being the major reason behind the collapse of United Artists Studios. The film, which starred Christopher Walken, Jeff Bridges, and John Hurt, has received more positive reviews after decades of retrospective viewings, with the BBC ranking it at number 98 on their 100 greatest American films of all time.
Number 4.
The rock band Queen had a big hit on their hands with Another One Bites the Dust, but they weren't the only ones. Parody singer Weird Al Yankovic would have his first hit on the Dr. Demento show with his song Another One Rides the Bus. That song didn't hit the Billboard Top 10, but let's hear a little bit of it anyway.
Another one rides the bus, another one rides the bus, and another comes on, and another comes on, another one rides the bus. Hey, he's gonna sit by you, another one rides the bus. That's a suitcase pulling me in the ribs, there's an elbow in my ear. There's a smelly old bum standing next to me, he hasn't showered in a year. Well, I think I'm missing a contact lens, I think my wallet's gone. And I think this bus is stopping again. Let a couple more freaks get on. Look out! Another one rides the bus.
The Queen version was a huge success for the band and most popular song on our show to date, first appearing on the September episode. Here is Queen bowing out of the top 10 this month with their hit song, Another One Bites the Dust.
Ow! Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey! Another one bites the dust. Hey! Another one
was Queen with their personal contribution to the medical industry. You see, Another One Bites the Dust was used in a study to train medical professionals on how to provide the correct number of chest compressions per minute while performing CPR. Their baseline has close to 110 beats per minute, and the 100 to 120 chest compressions per minute are recommended by the British Heart Foundation. The network writers' strike resulted in some shows making their debut a little bit late in the fall television season. 2 unforgettable shows made their debut this month. I know, it's like a bonus TV theme question, isn't it? You don't have to wait for a commercial for the answer to this one. After a successful supporting role on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and a starring role in the summer golf comedy hit Caddyshack, actor Ted Knight returns to the small screen in Too Close for Comfort. The half-hour sitcom stars Knight as a cartoonist, husband, and father to 2 grown daughters who still live at home. The show was an immediate hit, which is most likely due to its prime placement on Tuesday evenings between the hit shows Three's Company and Heart to Heart. The show, which also starred Nancy DeSalt, Lydia Cornell, and Jim J. Bullock, was moved to Thursday nights in its 3rd season, and the ratings began to plummet. Isn't that always the case? ABC canceled the show after its 3rd season, but the show wasn't dead yet. Metro Media, specializing in syndicated television shows, picked up Too Close for Comfort, and it was a hit in syndication for the next 2 years. In the show's 6th season, several changes were made before further episodes were produced. The show's title was changed to The Ted Knight Show, and the setting was changed. The daughters have moved on, and Knight was now a newspaper editor, living in a new home. The show remained a hit, but Ted Knight's health was worsening, as he'd been battling colon cancer since 1985. He died in August of 1986, and the show died with him. Then there was this one.
When we first moved to New York, we had a great apartment that was dirt cheap.
And we found out why it was so cheap.
Our friend Amy said there was a great apartment in her building.
Dirt cheap, but it's a hotel for women. Okay, we made one adjustment.
Now these other ladies know us as Buffy and Hildegard.
But they also know us as Kip and Henry, Buffy and Hildy's brothers. I am crazy about the blonde.
This experience is going to make a great book.
See, it's all perfectly normal.
Well, the opening segment to Boo Some Buddies pretty much tells you the plot of this new sitcom. 2 single men working in creative advertising struggle in their industry and disguise themselves as women in order to live in the only apartment they can afford. Frequent themes in the show were gender stereotypes and male and female interpersonal relationships, as you can probably guess. The show became known for its quirky humor and its frequent use of improvisation. Though the show started out with good ratings, it failed to hold the public's interest and was canceled after the 2nd season. The show marks the starring debut of young actor Tom Hanks, and also starred Peter Scolari, Donna Dixon, Holland Taylor, and Wendy Jo Spencer. The theme song is Billy Joel singing My Life, but all the records say that it was actually redone by Gary Bennett, that he re-recorded the song. But I would bet $1 that that theme song was Billy Joel that we heard. What do you think? Number 3! After making her name the previous decade as the most successful female artist of the disco genre, Donna Summer felt that her record label Casablanca had exploited her and made her portray a sexually oriented image which she never felt comfortable with. After recovering from depression and rediscovering her Christian faith, Summer broke away from Casablanca and became the first artist to sign with the newly formed Geffen Records. With the first single from her latest album, The Wanderer, here is Donna Summer with the title track.
Woke up this morning and dragged myself across the bed. Alice went to Wonderland, but I stayed home instead. I started feeling bad cause I was left behind, cause I'm a wanderer. I'm a wanderer. She clapped right through the mirror, oh that really blew my mind. I think I follow through her rhythm and her rhyme. I know I'm ready now, it's just a little time, cause I'm a wanderer. Ooh, I'm a wanderer. Cause I'm a wanderer, I travel every place. Cause I'm a wanderer, from here to outer space. Cause I'm a wanderer, got no time. Cause I'm a wanderer. Ooh, just a wanderer.
You know, I gotta admit, I was 7 in 1980, and most of these songs I remember a little bit. This song I have zero memory of. But with a change of style for the Queen of Disco, she was incorporating new wave, synth riffs, and a shuffling beat. That was Donna Summer with The Wanderer. It peaked at number 3 this month in 1980. Let's take a look at the comings and goings in the pop culture world. Those born into the world are actors Ryan Gosling and Luke Hemsworth, and musician Isaac Hansen of the pop group Hanson. I don't know which one he is. The middle one? I don't know. Stars who left us in November 1980 include silent film star Carmel Myers dies at the age of 81. Actor George Raft passes away at the age of 79. Raft is best remembered as a stylish leading man in dozens of films, including Scarface, Each Dawn I Die, and he has a supporting role in Some Like It Hot. British actress Rachel Roberts dies at the age of 53 after battling alcoholism and depression. Roberts won the BAFTA Award for Best Actress and was nominated for the Academy Award for her role in 1963's This Sporting Life. Babe London was a comedic actress who worked alongside such legends as Laurel and Hardy, W.C. Fields, and the Three Stooges. She dies at the age of 79. At the young age of 50, the actor known as the King of Cool, Steve McQueen, passed away from cancer associated with asbestos exposure. The actor had become sick in 1978 and received the official diagnosis in February of 1980, but he was trying to keep the condition secret. Didn't take long. By March 1980, the tabloid National Enquirer reported that McQueen was suffering from lung cancer. Steve McQueen was a top box office draw in the 1960s and 70s, with unforgettable roles in the films The Cincinnati Kid, The Thomas Crown Affair, Bullet, The Great Escape, and many more. McQueen was nominated for an Academy Award for his role in the 1966 war film, The Sand Pebbles. And one of the most controversial movie stars of her day, Mae West, passed away this month. Known for double entendres and breezy sexual independence, West made a name for herself in vaudeville and on stage in New York City before moving to Hollywood. West continually bucked the system, making comedy out of prudish conventional mores. She was one of the defining reasons why the production code was enforced in Hollywood films in 1934. To combat censorship, West would intentionally place these over-the-top lines in her script, in hopes that the censors would focus on those and allow other ones to slip through. Eventually, censorship made West's sexually suggestive brand of humor impossible for studios to distribute. It landed her on the list of actors titled Box Office Poison. And after years of battling with the censors, West would leave Hollywood for a successful career in top nightclubs, performances in Las Vegas, and on Broadway. In those areas, she was allowed and even welcome to be herself. West was a shrewd investor and put her money into land in Van Nuys, a thriving suburb of Los Angeles. With that considerable fortune, She could afford to do whatever she liked in her years. West died of complications from a stroke at the age of 87. Here's a bit of actress, singer, playwright, screenwriter, comedian, and sex symbol Mae West, singing one of her trademark songs, I'm No Angel.
Oh, come on, let me cling on to you like a vine. Make that low-down music trickle up your spine. Baby, I can warm you with this love of mine. I'm no angel. Oh, let me feel your fingers running through my hair. I can give you kisses till you walk down there. Love me, honey, love me till I just don't care. I'm no angel. I'll take your blues, stomp down your troubles, rock you with a steady roll. Here's your connection, take my affection, you're mine away in the hole. Oh, let me have you now before the night is gone. Come on, flank this joint so we can carry on. I can make it heaven where the shades are drawn. I'm no angel.
Number 2. With her latest single, Woman in Love, Barbra Streisand hit the top of the charts in 16 countries, including 3 weeks at the top of the U.S. Billboard pop charts. Now slipping to number 2, here is Woman in Love.
We may be oceans away. You feel my love. I hear what you say. No truth is ever a lie. I stumble and fall, but I give you it
Last time it was at the top of our charts. This month it slips to number 2. That was Barbra Streisand with Woman in Love, a song which had a music video made, which was just simply clips of her movies, including A Star is Born and other films she starred in throughout the 70s. Next up is a song that has been finally remembered years later, so much that it may come as a surprise that this song never cracked into the top 10 on our charts. It's our song that should have but didn't. This week's song that should have but didn't has now been described as a cornerstone for the development of the new wave music sound in the early 80s. This song's synth pop sound, nonsensical lyrics, and upbeat rhythm made it a memorable song in 1980, and the video will become memorable after receiving heavy airplay on MTV the next year. The art synth pop rock band Devo got their start in 1973, and have always been a bit on the weird side. Although they haven't been forgotten, they can easily be described as a one-hit wonder with this song, which peaked at number 14 this week in 1980. Here is Whip It.
Break your mama's back.
The band was based on the concept of de-evolution, meaning that mankind was regressing, and that's where the name Devo came from. They made several music videos prior to Whip It, taking advantage of their avant-garde image in the new and rising medium. But it was this hit song which made Devo this week's artist that should have but didn't.
Starburst fruit juice, a burst of refreshing fruit flavor for you. Tastes like mouth-watering orange, strawberry too, luscious lemon.
And now a tempting new flavor, tasty, tangy cherry.
There's a burst of refreshing fruit flavor for you in Starburst fruit juice, naturally and artificially flavored.
Number 1. Topping the charts this week is a song written by Lionel Richie of the Commodores, but the song was turned down by his band. It's a new song featured on Kenny Rogers' recent Greatest Hits package, which along with 2 other new songs contained 9 hits from his last 3 years. At number 1 this week is country star Kenny Rogers crossing over to the pop charts with his ballad, Lady.
Lady, for so many years I thought I'd never find you. You have come into my life and made me whole. Forever, let me wake to see you each and every morning. Let me hear you whisper softly in my ear. In my eyes, I see no one else but you. There's no other love like I love. And yes, I'll always want you near me. I've waited for you for so long. Lady.
Wake up, everybody. That's Kenny Rogers with his most successful single of his career, Lady. Lionel Richie later recorded a version for his 1998 album, Time. The song became the first record of the 80s to chart on all 4 of Billboard's singles charts, which is the Hot 100, which we count down, the country charts, adult contemporary, and top black singles. That does it for another episode of Pop History Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Remember, life is short, so be nice to each other.
You're the love of my life. You're my lady.
Thanks for listening to Pop History Podcast. Please leave us a review on iTunes, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email us at pophistorypodcast@yahoo.com. Your host and producer is Jay Jackson. Theme music by Jason Parkhurst. All other music used herein is the property of their respective songwriters, publishers, and recording companies and are used within this podcast for historical educational purposes. Pop History Podcast is copyright 2017.
Blah, 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 blah.